Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence, we are back with another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. I am Arcaicskidz, and this is Barbie for Freedom. What up?
Hello.
Why don't you tell people who you are?
I am Leilani. I am a liberty activist. I work in Native American and Native Hawaiian politics. I am Native American and Native Hawaiian. I host a show called Coffee Talks on Wednesdays, and I'm just here to discuss liberty.
Nice. Everything you need to follow her on Twitter, her show, we have it scrolling, plus it's all in the description. I think that you should definitely subscribe to her channel. Give her a little money. Keep her working. You know, she's hilarious, and I think you guys will love it. All right. Well, we kind of are winging this thing. Just planned it yesterday, so I want to talk about drugs. And
drugs. Okay.
Yes. Here's where I'm going with this. Derek Chauvin is on trial in Minneapolis. I do not believe he's going to be convicted. I do believe if he is convicted, it won't be on all the charges. I don't think it'll matter. I think Minneapolis burns. I think they're going to burn it down. They're going to say, no matter what, it wasn't good enough. But here's my issue. The defense number one argument is he died from a drug overdose. I think there's merit that, if nothing else, it was a major cause of that scenario. Here's my thing. If drugs were not illegal, that interaction had a substantially better chance of going different. What are your thoughts on that?
I would have to agree with you. I think
well, I mean,
if I'm
obviously
understanding the question correctly. So, you know, obviously as libertarians, we believe that all drugs should be legal. Yes. And, you
my
know,
body, my choice.
If he were in need or in want of help, you know, that situation may have been avoided altogether. And, you know, maybe he wouldn't have had those drugs in his system. But at the same time, you know, like, it still doesn't negate the fact that Derek Chauvin did what he did.
Right, I understand that. Yeah, I'm not saying
and
that
I think
what the man did is okay by any means.
And I understand that, but I bring that up to say, like, to all the back the blue people who bring up the drug argument, you know, who automatically go to, well, he had drugs in his system, or that's what he died from. And it doesn't negate the fact that Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck and, you know, for 9 minutes. That doesn't, just because he had drugs in his system, does not negate the fact that Derek Chauvin did what he did.
Right. I agree with that. I will say this. One of the things that I did learn about that situation is Derek Chauvin did exactly what they trained him to do. That is 100% how they tell him to keep him contained. So my issue with this entire situation is that the state is responsible for the death of George Floyd. And they are using Derek Chauvin as a scapegoat so that they don't have to change any of the policies. My concern is that they are, well, one, I think they're doing it intentionally. But two is, if you don't see this as an opportunity to make legitimate reform in how you handle these situations, this is going to happen again. And throwing this man in a box, not that I'm totally against that, I'm not, but throwing him in a box doesn't change the later outcomes that we will have. And one of those is the drugs. I think George Floyd was worried because he was high. He had narcotics on his person at the time. This is a man who understands the criminal justice system. Understood, my apologies. He knew he was going to get locked in a cage. if we treated drugs like we treat abortion, my body, my choice, maybe that interaction would not have ended in that man's death. That's what I mean by that.
Well, the thing is that once you put that badge on, once you put that uniform on, you automatically become
chest jewelry. That's what we call it on this channel.
Okay. Once you put that chest jewelry on, you automatically become an agent of the state. You become the state. There is no longer that separation between you and the state. You have state training. You have the state behind you. You are the state. Yes. And this is the moment where I become a little anarchist. Because
I like it.
Because I don't believe that the moment that you become a state agent, there is a separation between you and the state. And I kind of agree with you in the fact that putting him in jail would change anything. I do believe that him serving his time and serving his punishment is something that he should do. I fully believe that he should serve a punishment for what he did. And the jury will decide what that punishment should be. But I don't think that until we privatize the police system, that this will ever change. Because until all drugs are legal, or they're all decriminalized, that view of the way the state reacts to drugs isn't going to change. Yeah. And until we privatize our policing and change it and fundamentally change the way policing just reacts to everything in general, it's just not going to change. There is no amount of defunding or reallocating that's going to change the fact that there is no separation between the police and the state, because they are one.
Yeah, I tell people on Twitter and it pisses them off, and it usually ends with me arguing with an actual cop, which is always fun for me because I have no problem telling them that they're criminals. They are all criminals, but I don't refer to them as police. I refer to them as Praetorian Guard because that's what they are. They don't care about the individual. Dave Smith in his comedy special Libertas refers to them as he how did he put it? It's basically like, you steal my money and then you use it to violate my rights, and people call them public servants. Well, if someone runs up and robs you and takes off with all your money, it's like, oh, I have a new employee. No, that's not how it works. Yeah, I don't see police as there to protect and serve. They're Praetorian Guard. They're there to serve the state, protect the state. That's a problem. How the hell do you get neocons to see that? Although COVID has been helpful in that, I would say.
So the thing is there's this misconception, and this misconception is all due to marketing. Police have a great marketing team. I would like to get them on my team. Oh my God, they are so good at marketing. And
you'd be as big as Tucker Carlson in a week.
Oh my God. Everyone has this misconception that they are here to protect and serve you.
Yeah.
They are here for you. And the Supreme Court has ruled that they have no, God, what is the word I'm thinking of? They decide whether or not required. They are not required to protect and serve you. And they get to choose whether or not they protect or serve you. You could be walking down the street getting mugged and they could just walk away.
That happens all the time.
And that is the key thing, right? All of these neocons need to realize that. That is the key distinction between someone who realizes that and then makes that connection that they are Praetorian Guard, and then someone who doesn't realize that and still believes that they're there to protect and serve the people, because that, as long as they keep that misconception alive, they can continue to control the masses.
Right, and they're very good at keeping that misconception alive. There's story after story. I mean, especially out of like Oregon, Portland, Seattle. Who, look, you say anything you want about Antifa, these people are more anarchist than most people that call themselves anarchists. They actually go out there and they risk it. You know what I mean? They're like, no, I'm gonna fight back. I'm not agreeing with the violence that they deliver on the citizenry, but they use action to back up what their rhetoric is. And so it's kind of weird for me to like actually kind of respect the fact that, hey, they mean it.
Well, I think that there's a huge misconception about anarchy, because when I first came into the party, I thought that anarchy was one thing, and then I realized that anarchy was very much another. And anarchy is actually a very peaceful thing. And a lot of people see Antifa and they're like, that's anarchist.
Well, it's not.
Antifa is like very much trying to force their views on other people, whereas
they're authoritarian.
Anarchy as it lives in the liberty movement is anarchy. It is very much a peaceful movement of peaceful people who just want to live their lives without government interference.
Where I would push back is that anarchy does allow for violence in a self-defense mechanism. And what I mean is that these Antifa people, now I'm not agreeing with their end goal. What I am saying is, in their mind, they think what they're doing is self-defense. So when they're violent like that, I see it as authoritarianism because they're not actually under siege. You know what I mean? So their self-defense argument doesn't work. But when you have this cult ideology that words are violence and violence can be met with violence, well, that's a recipe for disaster. You know,
I could see an argument for that. I could. Especially if you do believe that that words are violence.
Yeah, which that's just, I'm never going to be able to wrap my head around that one. I just can't.
I believe that words hurt, but I don't believe that words are violence.
Okay.
So, like,
hate speech.
You know, I believe that people should be mindful of what they say. I think it's on you to personally take that. You know, right. I am Hawaiian. I am Native American. My grandmother, who is very much still alive, was someone who lived through segregation as a Native American woman. Mm-hmm. And she was the one who kind of made me realize that hate speech and words of violence and that kind of thing is, you know, as long as it's not met with action, is just something that really is something that people internalize. And as long as you don't internalize that, and as long as you meet it with love, is just not like you choose for it to be violence. It's not, that is a choice. Hate speech.
So she taught you to be a duck.
She taught me to be someone who meets hate with love.
Right. Well, that's really what I mean by be a duck. It just let it roll off your back because it's not, you're not going to, if someone is legitimately racist, you're not going to be able to have a conversation that convinces them. Well, actually, no, I'm going to have to pull that back because there is a great man who has actually done that. So, but it's hard. It's very difficult to have a logical conversation with someone that sees you as an other or less than them.
Well, I had a great conversation with Ricky Dale Harrington Jr. the other day. And, you know, we were talking about how oftentimes it takes people longer to come into the liberty movement because you really have to face yourself and you have to come face to face with your ideology. And oftentimes that's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it's something even harder like racism, I could only imagine how just absolutely like world altering that would be. And I would not ever attempt to change someone's mind on that, because that's not my place. That's an internal struggle someone has to have with themselves.
Right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Well, I do find the whole wokeism thing and critical race theory thing hilarious, because you admitting you're racist and then saying all white people are racist is baffling to me. Because I'm like, why are we listening to these people? Like, they openly admit that they're racist. They see people as less than them or others. They're somehow superior. I'm like, why are we listening to them? They belong at the back of the bus. I mean, for lack of a better term, that's baffling to me. You are Native American, and that see, this is weird because society tells me I'm not supposed to talk about stuff like this with you, but I don't care. I'm going to do it because whatever. There's a large petition now, and it's building steam to pay reparations to the African American community, the Black community, for injustices done. And a lot of people, this is an argument I've heard. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's an argument I've heard, is that the Native Americans have been paid reparations forever. I don't see that as a very valid argument, but I mean, you're Native American. You tell me.
So, yes and no. I mean, it depends on like what exactly they're referring to. I mean, like right now we're I know my personal tribe has free healthcare. It's not good healthcare. The Indian health system is racked with issues and problems, but we have free healthcare.
Yeah.
We don't have to pay state sales tax and things like that. So I don't know if they're referring to that. They could also
in all
be
honesty, I don't think they know what they're referring to. How many people actually think you guys get a check once a month?
Yes, I was actually just about to get to that. So per cap is a thing that some tribes receive.
Okay.
My tribe is a tribe that receives per cap, but that is from revenue from casinos. And oftentimes tribes either don't receive that because the deal with that casino doesn't include a per cap or something. Or I know the Navajo reservation, that one is a big misconception that their tribe does not receive per cap because their tribe is so large. I think it goes directly into education,
miles from my house, I know.
Yeah, it goes into something like that, like education or something.
Well, the people don't get the money; the tribe gets the money, and the tribe
that's kind of what I'm referring to. Yeah, I personally, my tribe gets per cap. I do not get per cap. I am half white. I am a quarter Native American, and even though I am a quarter Native American, I do not receive federal recognition, which is the most libertarian statement I have ever said. But my tribe does not believe that I am a quarter Native American, so I do not receive any tribal benefits, which is why I am so against the BIA, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, if people don't know what that is. But yes, so that is a huge misconception. There are some tribes that do receive, and we receive per cap on a quarterly basis. So there are some tribes that receive per cap. There are some that don't, and some tribes that receive per cap in a different way. like it going directly to the tribe and benefiting the tribe in some way. It's so vastly different. There are like 550 tribes throughout the nation that you just don't know, and you can't make that assumption. And there have been reparations paid to Native Americans in the past, but that's based off of what tribe you belong to, what happened to you in the past, and why that reparation was paid. I mean, you can't just look at someone and say, you were paid reparations, because tribal relations in the United States are so complicated. And I can say that as a, Native American studies major. It is so complicated. You can't just, you have to go down to the minute area of the country to study something, because studying the entire country will just blow your freaking mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Learning about everything and everyone. We all are different languages, we're different cultures. It's absolutely insane. And I mean, it's almost exactly like Black or African American culture in America. It's, everyone, no matter where you live, is different because you grew up somewhere different. It's almost like America is a melting pot or something.
Weird.
It's crazy. You can't, I personally don't believe in reparations. I was listening to your talk with Lauren earlier today, so I know you do. But I personally don't believe in them, mostly because of my belief that in little to no government interference. That's why I don't believe in it.
I guess I could take the time to clarify. I don't see reparations the way a lot of people see them. I don't think that we should just give everyone a check. I don't think that would actually help them. I don't think it would do a good deed. What I mean by reparations is that a lot of the policies that have been implemented by government, whether it be state or federal, when it comes to trying to deal with poverty in the Black community, my opinion is it's been detrimental. So when I say reparations, I mean maybe interest-free government-backed loans, things of that thing, so they can build their self up. You know what I mean? I don't mean reparations as, let's just give them money. I actually think that'd be a moronic idea, as most libertarians agree. Just giving people money is really, really unintelligent, because they didn't work for it. So they're like, oh, great, I don't care. You know what I mean? So that would be a whole nother discussion. My reparations argument is much different than most people's. So it's tax benefits, it's interest-free loans, it's things of that nature where we caused damage. Let's uncause it, but they still have to do the work. We're not just going to give them things, because I don't think that'll work out. And I attribute it to this. There was a Union general that after the Civil War, after the South had surrendered, he began giving federal property to slaves, or just freed slaves. And he would give them 40 acres and a mule. Basically, it was like, these people know how to farm. That's what they do, right? We need to give them an opportunity to advance themselves and make something out of, because you can't just, we're just going to let them go. And now what? You know what I mean? Most people do not know this. 85% of all freed slaves stayed working on the exact same plantation they were a slave on, because where were they going to go? What were they going to do? You know what I mean? So this Union general, oh my God, I am blanking on his name. In my opinion, he was a very incredible person in history. But he gave him 40 acres and a mule of federal land. And then Abraham Lincoln, the great savior, took it away. And so when I say reparations, that's what I mean. Give them their 40 acres and a mule. You have to work for it. I mean, you're still going to have to work. It's not like oh, here's free shit, just take it and go on. You know what I mean? It's opportunity is what I mean by that. So I don't know. But the Civil War, the whole history of that is, if people knew, if they actually knew history, it would change, I think, a lot of people's minds about a lot of things.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln as a child was my favorite president. And as I have grown to be an adult, studied history, and now am a Native American Studies major / history major, he's literally the worst person, especially when it comes to Native Americans.
Yes.
Maybe that's a hot take, but yeah.
No, I agree with you 100%.
He basically just kind of ignored Native American problems and then handed it off to the worst people and like most racist people ever. And the entire reservation system was created under Abraham Lincoln. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, because I, do this weird thing libertarians do, which is called read books that are not written by government agents. It's crazy.
Education? What?
Well, I mean, it didn't come from the state indoctrination education lab. You have to do that on your own. You got to go educate yourself. But, well, this is already derailed. That's why it's called this. So yeah. You know how libertarians on Twitter, especially, they like to do the name your top 5 worst presidents. Woodrow Wilson is almost always, actually pretty much always, number 1 for everyone. And he is for me too, but for different reasons. And then number 2 is always Abraham Lincoln. And people are like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, just read some books. Trust me. Like, he was a awful human.
For me, it's like Andrew Jackson, for obvious reasons, Abraham Lincoln for obvious reasons, FDR for like obvious reasons. And then like, I'm just like, do I need to go on? Like,
you just named 3 of my 5 worst presidents. Like,
yeah, like,
yeah,
like Andrew Jackson was literally nicknamed the Indian fighter. Like, do I need to go on? Like,
he was a horrible, horrible person. It's crazy to me how ignorant people are about American history. And I mean, I got in an argument with an American history major once, and they were like, and I didn't even know that's what they were or whatever, but they finally eventually told me that, well, I'm in my, I think they said 4th year or something, of American history. That's my major at Yale University. And I was like, you need to get your fucking money back, because you're an idiot. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Just stop it. To me, I would think if you're going to actually study history, you wouldn't just do whatever the school told you to do. You would go digging and find out what's what in the world, But whatever. Let's talk about something fun for a minute. I find it fun. The state libertarian parties are like in a war of out messaging each other about COVID passports. Kentucky and New Hampshire, I think, have had the best ones so far. That caused the most steam. Some people took offense to it. I didn't, because I'm like, bold action requires bold statement, or bold statements cause bold action. Whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is that they seem to be in like a who can best the other one, which is really good for me to see. I like that. I've not seen that in a long time in the Libertarian Party. What are your thoughts about that, the messaging, and also the COVID passports, which I can assume your answer on that?
My whole thing is that I'm a journalism student at the moment. That's like one of the classes that I'm taking for funsies. And it's my like homework to watch the news, and I've literally not seen anything about COVID passports. I watch a lot of things on legislation for fun, and I have not seen a single thing on COVID passports.
You watch things on legislation for fun?
I know, it's almost like I work in politics.
That's weird.
I do it to double task, and so when everybody started talking about COVID passports, I was really freaking confused.
Okay.
And I still am. If I'm being 110% honest, like
you don't watch Sleepy
I still
Joe
have not,
stuff?
like I still have not seen a single, like I still have not seen where these passport rumors came from. Like I still don't know.
I will send you plenty, including
Like,
your president.
I like
They didn't call him a COVID passport, but that's what they are.
probably like that's probably where my like misconception is coming from, because they called it something different. But I made a statement on Twitter where I was like, in my funny sense was like, you know what, fuck that shit. Can I cuss here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about
okay.
it. Libertarian channel.
True. But my whole thing about the messaging part about it is like, why? Like, I guess, like, you can just make a statement without offending people. Like,
Can you though? Honestly.
Well, like, I made a joke about it without offending people, Like, I said, you know what's hot? Not having a COVID passport. Fuck that shit.
Yes, but not everyone's as smart as you.
Like, you didn't have to bring in racist comments to, the conversation. And that's my whole thing, is like, Carrie Ann Harlow's brought in onto the show yesterday with you. Like, there was a way to like word that differently,
Right.
to kind of make the comparison, but word it differently. And I agreed with her point there. I'm not sure that the comparison was correct still. I want to watch the conversation with Rabbi and Dave Smith later to see what the kind of conclusion is there. I'm still in the process of conversion, and I am still learning and intaking information, and I don't want to make a statement that I regret later in my religious life. But I don't also, I'm very conflicted on whether I agree with that or not, as someone who's in the process of studying Judaism. Like, I read that and I was like, it made me uncomfortable. And I guess that's kind of the point of the message. Yeah, that's the point of the message. But I guess I wasn't proud to see that messaging. And a lot of times, like when I want them to be out there making a statement, I want to be proud. I want it to be something that I can quote tweet and show all my friends, Right. So not my favorite.
I will agree with you and disagree with you at the same time. I agree with you, and I also agreed with Karen Ann that the messaging could have been polished. But I will say this. Donald Trump got called literally Hitler for years, and that was fine. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I mean, basically. But then you use it in a pejorative, like Kentucky did, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't care about the Holocaust. And I will make the same point today, and I will probably keep making this point. The Holocaust did not happen overnight. There was a long, long process. There was build up to change people's opinions and culture of a certain people that led to the eventuality of the Holocaust. And I think it's important to see, especially when state actors working with private, as this is where me and libertarians do run afoul a lot, is that when the government works directly with private companies to do something that strips freedom from people, I have a problem with that. And we have historical references, and I know it may upset some Jewish people, but the best historical reference we have, in the last century, is the Holocaust. There are actually many more. They could have used, the Roman Empire, for instance, who did that to many, many people. There, there wasn't the first Holocaust in history, and unfortunately, it won't be the last because humans are horrible generally. But so I understand your point there. I guess where I agreed with this situation is they got libertarians trending, and that's good because that brings people in that you can have a conversation with that maybe you otherwise would ignore you.
But they got us trending for the wrong reasons.
I disagree. Trending is trending. I think there's some truth in the there is no such thing as bad press. It's how you turn it.
Yeah, but now it's like another Aleppo moment, right? Where now every single time we're running a candidate, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're that party that did that, right?" And then we're going to have to explain.
They're going to do that anyway, no matter what your message.
Yeah.
The point is
but it's just another
people to pay attention.
It's just another nail in the coffin. And when I say I want something for us to be proud of, like we need more things that people can see and be like, "Oh, you're that party that said that amazing thing," instead of something like Aleppo or this Kentucky tweet.
Yeah. No, I mean, okay, I guess I can understand that. I guess part of me just looks at, I've been in the Libertarian Party since 2004. So I'm not like a newcomer to this thing. I was back when I was 19 years old. I was like, well, these other parties are stupid. These people actually seem to care about freedom. Although that's been put to the test. So I guess I look at it that this is a war. And libertarians need to know that. And wars have bloodshed. Unfortunately, that's the way that it is. You're never going to win a war by being 100% of the times morally superior to your enemy. It's just not a thing. So, I mean, that's my opinion. And I appreciate yours. And that was one of the things that I like about this liberty unity thing is we don't have to agree all the time because we all have the same end goal. And the end goal is get rid of as much state as possible. I prefer all state, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Let's talk about critical race theory. You're Native American. To me, I mean, COVID passports or whatever aside, the critical race theory nonsense being pushed by the lefties, the progressives and them, that is actually, to me, the scariest shit going on right now because they're winning. And I'm like, uh-oh.
So one of the things that has happened to me recently was I had a close friend of mine really I've had a couple of close friends of mine really kind of push my buttons because as much as I disagree with this, what you're referring to, the critical race theory and what the left is pushing, and as much as I disagree with that because what they're pushing is not true. And as much as I'm a libertarian, I also want to push for truth. So I don't agree with what they're doing, but I don't necessarily believe that none of this should be taught. I believe that true history is what should be taught. And that includes the voices of the minorities and the history of the minorities. I had a couple of friends really push my buttons and kind of had me realize that as much as there is this true history and as much as there is these moments that we really have to pay attention to, like genocide in Native American communities and the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom and things that I'm really an expert on, there are moments that I have to realize that we lost. And that was like something that I guess I've never wanted to come to terms with. And this friend who, like, I had this conversation with, he was the one who brought it up to me finally, and he was the one who finally had enough balls to tell me, Leilani, you lost. Like, and I feel like that's what has been taught in history is like, but the true history never got taught.
Right.
The only thing that got taught was you lost. So I think it's finding that happy medium between you lost and you have rights, and that's what we need to find. The true history, you lost, you still are a person. Like that's the combination that we need to find. But you also don't need to say like the person you lost to is not human because someone in their ancestry did something wrong. Because this person is a brand new person. They are a brand new human being, and that human being has rights as well. And that's what critical race theory really loses, is that every single person that is born into this new era is a new human being, and that person has rights no matter their skin color, no matter what family they were born into. They still have the opportunity to change who they are. They have an opportunity to change history. And that is what critical race theory really misses out on.
I agree. But I don't think that I don't think the puppet masters actually give two shits about the people, honestly.
Oh, no.
I think they see it as an opportunity to cause a rift that will give them power. And that's all that really is. They don't actually care about any minorities at all. I mean, how do you write an entire book and go, yeah, I'm a racist and so are all the rest of you? It's like, no, you're a racist. Like, why are you rich? I don't understand this.
Well, according to that book, I'm half racist and half not racist because I'm half white, right?
That must be
half German.
Do you hate yourself?
I'm half German, Irish. I'm very conflicted inside because I'm a proponent of Native American and Native Hawaiian rights and liberties, and I also want to oppress myself. So
yes.
I'm just very conflicted, right?
I was lucky enough to just be solid white, so I don't have any of those issues. So, I mean, I guess thanks, mom and dad, and grandma and grandpa, and grandma and grandpa, and grandma and grandpa. Like, I don't know.
See, that's where those things go wrong, right? Like if that's true, then how did I come to be?
Yeah, it seems weird if everyone's racist. Well, I mean, I've seen some stuff on Twitter and I've read some articles and I'm like, wow. What I mean by what scares me about it is that they are feeding this shit to our children, young impressionable minds that are not old enough to understand this is nonsense. I'm lucky enough that like my son, when it comes to that, he's like, you can go fuck yourselves. Like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like one of the funniest things about him is someone will call him racist and he goes, okay, but how does that change my point? And it's funny because they don't know how to respond to that. It confuses them. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a scapegoat at this point, right? Someone loses the point of their argument. Someone feels like they no longer have power in their argument, so they just go, you're a racist.
Yeah.
And now they've won.
That's really irritating. They do that all the time. It's their defense mechanism of, oh, well, I can shut this down by just calling you names. And it's like, all right, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's talk about guns. You're moving to Hawaii, and Hawaii is, well, they're about to head to the Supreme Court and find out that they suck at everything when it comes to guns. If the Supreme Court takes it up, these people like to sit on their thumbs recently. So you're going to move to Hawaii, possibly, maybe. That's what you're saying, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean,
they don't have gun rights there. You're not allowed to own a gun.
I literally just made you are allowed to own a gun.
Okay.
The gun laws are very, 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 very complicated. And the one thing I do have to say is luckily there is a lovely lawyer out there, and I'm totally blanking on his name. Anyways, the Attorneys for Freedom law firm is out there now. There's a lawyer who works there who I talk about all the time on like every single podcast, and I like totally forgot his name. He just recently moved out there to work on gun rights in Hawaii. So I have a feeling like I will have great legal counsel when it comes to having my rights secured
Protected.
when I'm out there.
Secured.
Yeah. And have some great guidance as to how I can navigate the legal gun system in Hawaii. I will definitely be talking to them even before I move, so that I can make sure that I do everything legally in the process legally, because I don't want to die.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love guns. I don't ever want to lose my guns.
I love guns.
As all of my friends know, I love my guns. They are my children. So I don't ever want to have children. Crotch rockets, not goblins, but my guns are my children.
So I brought that up because Hawaii is there was a recent case in the 9th district, which, by the way, just so everyone knows that's all worried about it, they're the most overturned appellate court in the entire country. The Supreme Court overturned the 9th district. I think it's been something like, if I remember right, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, 13,000 plus times they have been overruled by the Supreme Court in history. It's bar none how bad it is comparative to the next court. But they ruled that you do not have a right to carry a firearm on your person in public.
Sounds like Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, and it was a guy in Hawaii. And by the way, this man is a hero, in my opinion, for taking this thing all the way up. He's like, no, I'm going to prove a point. You don't have a right to tell me what I can do. You know what I mean? So, but most people won't. And so, mad shout out. Shit, I forgot his name. I'm going to get it and I'm going to throw it in the description for anyone watching this after. He's got a GoFundMe. Hit him up. Like, give him a few dollars. He needs it. The man's a hero, in my opinion. But he took this thing and he was like, no, we're taking this to the top. But he knew what he was doing when he did it. You know what I mean? He knew they're going to arrest me for this, but I don't care. This is my right. I can do this if I want to. You don't have a say in it. And he got it to the 9th district, which is people don't understand how slow the court system is. This entire situation started years ago. But now he's got a very good opportunity to go to the Supreme Court. Most people saw the 9th district and they were like, oh, well, this is really bad for freedom. And I'm like, no, this is great. I don't know what you're talking about. If Supreme Court takes this up, this is great for every state, because the Supreme Court right now, I honestly believe, I give it 35% chance now, would say, no, you do have that right. You have that right as a American citizen that you can carry that firearm in public. And that doesn't just affect Hawaii, that affects everywhere. That's going to suck for New Jersey and Chicago and these other places with these terrible, terrible authoritarian gun laws. So I'm actually a big fan that case made it. And I hope that it does make it all the way to the Supreme Court, because I think that could be very good for people. And I think libertarians should absolutely support this guy, because the dude, like, he risked everything. You know what I mean? And not many people do that. I look forward to you going to Hawaii, and then maybe, he needs backup. I feel like you'd be like, no, that's my right. You can't take it from me.
Yeah, I plan to do a lot of things when I'm in Hawaii, not just in gun rights, but
including recruit Tulsi.
No, I have no plans to do that. I have no plans to work for government at all. But in fact,
well, she's not in government anymore.
Well, I plan to repeal American government in all forms at
I like that.
all levels, called Hawaiian sovereignty, and
I like it.
reinstate the Hawaiian kingdom, and then abdicate and let the Hawaiian people take over, because that is the original Hawaiian
go back
constitutional
to being your own
government.
country again.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that, actually. Like, I wish most states would do that. Like, I'm a big fan of balkanization.
Like, that's my goal is just to help them, the Hawaiian Kingdom, in any way that I can. Like, that's the reason why I want to become an international lawyer. That's why I want to do what I want to do. That's why I'm here, so I could get experience working in the political sphere. Like, I love the Libertarian Party, and I would have no problem working with the Libertarian Party while I'm in Hawaii, but I feel like we have very conflicting views here. Like, you want to work with the American government, I'm working against it. Like, I feel like it's very conflicting. So when people tell me, like, you should get connected with the Hawaiian LP now, I'm like, I feel like we have some conflicting views here.
You're like, I feel like I'm probably going to work against them. I don't know if that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Like, I totally get it. I don't like the word kingdom that you use, because do you want a king again?
The misconception
Actually,
is that it was like a situation where it was like a queen and then that it was a monarch and whatever, but actually there was a parliamentary system based off of England, a mix between England and America. And when the cabinet took over with the Bayonet Constitution under King David Kalakaua, and they used all of their power to basically take control of the government. When Queen Liliuokalani came to power, she was overthrown because she was trying to instate a new constitution which would give the power and voting rights back to the people.
I see. So it's a democratic monarch.
So that's the big misconception, is the reason why I back the Hawaiian Kingdom is because they have put in place that constitution that gives the people the voting rights and all of that kind of stuff. And I would like to put that in power because I don't know, that's a lot better than like kind of what we've got now. So it's a lot less government.
I agree with you. Anything less government, I'm a big fan of. And someone, I don't remember who it was, but they were like, oh, so you actually think it'd be a good idea if the state seceded from the union? And I'm like, that would be an exceptional idea. And they go, well, your state government still would rule over you. And I'm like, it's much easier to overthrow a state than a country. So yeah, like I'm okay with it, you know. Not to mention, this is the dumbest argument I've ever had on Twitter, in my opinion. Someone said something along the lines of countries, because you're familiar with Michael Malice.
I've heard the name.
Okay, well, he's a big fan. He's an anarchist. He's a big fan of balkanization. He's a big fan of breaking up the U.S. into 50 different countries, whatever. You know, Hawaii would go back to being Hawaii again. And one of the things that he said is, you know, we have countries as small as Denmark, right? There's less people there than there are in New York City. That is a fact. And they're their own country. Like, it's ridiculous to think that we all have to live under this one weird rules or whatever, the rule of majority. And he's not wrong in that. But someone said, well, yeah, but you have to understand those small countries only survive at the pleasure of their neighbors that are larger. And I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by that. And he goes, well, you know, you have bigger countries that it's only because they're good neighbors that these countries aren't just overtaken. And I'm like, okay, you're going to need to do more explaining, you know. He couldn't get there. And then he finally basically said, well, bigger countries, if they want to be tyrannical, would just take these small countries. And I'm like, bigger countries like who? What are you talking about? Russia? Like, I don't understand. And he goes, no, any country, like Germany. And I went, Germany is the size of Georgia. What are you talking about? This doesn't make sense to me. It is insane to me how many people think that England is like this massive country. It's a fucking island. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, it's insane that people don't realize how small those countries are. Like, to drive from one side of England to the other side is like a day trip.
Yeah.
And people just don't kind of compute that in their head. And I guess, like, I've consumed so much European media because I was a huge Doctor Who fan when I was a kid. Like, I made that connection.
I love Doctor Who.
I made that connection like a really long time ago. But I guess people just don't, it just doesn't compute in their brain. And the same can be said for Europeans who come here to America who don't realize how spread apart we are.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows that cultural divide we have.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, that's the dumbest argument I've ever had on Twitter is with that guy. And I was like, you know what? Here's where it gets me. You're using a supercomputer that's more powerful and it fits in your pocket than the shit that sent the rockets to the moon in the 60s, bro. Why would you say something so incredibly stupid? Like, you have all the knowledge of mankind in your pocket and you just say these dumb things. It's baffling to me. I don't understand. But these are the same people. What scares me is these people are allowed to vote. I understand you wanting Hawaiian Kingdom back. Like, go there and just no. Let's just leave this mess behind. I don't want to be part of it. We are coming up on an hour, so we are going to start to wrap it up. What do you have going on in the future? What is it you need people to help you do, other than follow your stuff and whatever? You got any big plans coming up they can help you with?
Well, like I said, like I think I said this yesterday, like I recently just had some big changes happen. So I'm kind of still getting my feet wet and finding what I'm doing right now. So I am currently deciding what I'm doing with my time. Hopefully I can hop onto a new candidate and I can help them with social media or management.
So good that and putting it on Twitter. I can hop on a new candidate. I'd be like,
I just need to latch on to something at this point. We're pretty far into like candidacies now. So I mean, yeah. I've jumped from both of the candidates I was helping out have now hopped out of their races, and so I'm just kind of like sitting here like twiddling my thumbs. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm kind of not really doing anything other than coffee talks at the moment. So
by the way, talks. Great. Everyone should go and subscribe to that. You know,
thank you. Yeah,
give Ilani some money. She needs it. She's got to pay for college and take over Hawaii because she's going to be the queen one day.
Oh God, no. I don't know. I recently just started an Idiot's Guide to Crypto as well. And
that's awesome.
I'm really enjoying that. And yeah, you can find all of that on my link tree, which is scrolling down there at the bottom.
Awesome. And that is where we are going to do our very last question, because you just reminded me of it. I tweeted that I was going to upset the Bitcoin and the gold people because the future currency is going to be food and ammo. And you had a good response to that, which I agreed with. But we were going to talk about crypto a little. I wanted to. You're a big fan of crypto. You see that as a great
crypto.
Way to decentralize power, right? Is crypto is great for that. And I'm also a big fan of crypto. Full disclosure, I own quite a bit of it. It's no one's business how much, but a lot. What is your favorite crypto? No financial
Bitcoin. I mean,
But really?
Bitcoin. Yeah.
You don't like Ethereum?
I mean, I think Ethereum's cool. But it's not my favorite. I don't know
Bitcoin's
much
my
about
favorite
Ethereum.
too, mainly because that's the one I own the most of. But
I don't know enough about Ethereum for it to be my favorite. Like, if I'm being 110% honest.
oh, it's great. I literally thought about selling a couple Bitcoins just to get Ethereum. I didn't. I just bought the Ethereum because it's better that way.
When you say a couple Bitcoins, do you mean like whole Bitcoins?
Yeah, I have 31 Bitcoin. I had 35, but then I sold them way a long time ago. I got them for free. A friend gave them to me.
Damn.
This was way back
Damn.
when they didn't even matter. They weren't even a thing.
I'm sitting here with my 2,000th of a Bitcoin, fucking rolling in the dough, man.
No, a friend gave me, I think it was in 2007 or I don't remember when it was exactly. It was a long ass time ago. He was like, "Oh, this thing's great. You should have it." And he showed me how to set it up, and then he gave it to me in my Bitcoin wallet. And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And he was like, "Just keep it. One day you'll understand." And I'm like, oh, "Okay." Well, over the last few years, I was like, "Huh, this is interesting." And it took forever to remember the password. But I did eventually get into my Bitcoin wallet, and yeah, I have 31 Bitcoin, which I got for free. So you're welcome to everyone that's going to stay poor when I'm the Elon Musk of the planet soon.
So, but anyways, yeah. So I fully agree with you that we should be stocking up on food and ammo, but I don't think that it's quite an investment. When I hear the word investment, I think of something that's going to grow, right? And unless you're planting that food and reloading that ammo, it doesn't really
That's
grow.
what I meant with food is plant and grow your own food.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess property is the investment technically.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That would be I would totally agree with you that property is an investment, right? Because that comes back to you in many ways. It's shelter and, some place to grow food and some, that kind of thing.
I would make the argument that property is your most important investment because it's your spot.
Yeah. But when it comes to libertarian principles and I mean, Bitcoin has brought in so many people into the liberty movement, and I don't think libertarians have really kind of realized that because of how decentralized it is. People get into Bitcoin and then they learn about Austrian economics and then they learn about the Libertarian Party. So it kind of works itself backwards. And I've worked it the other way, right? I came into the Libertarian Party and then I learned about Austrian economics and then I learned about Bitcoin, and
which is how most people do it.
I mean, most people who are in Bitcoin, I would argue, worked it the other way.
No. Right. I'm talking prior to the Bitcoin phenomenon.
Oh yeah, prior to the Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, you come in and then you learn oh, okay, well, this is all a broken system. We have to fix it. And then Bitcoin, actually, in my opinion, is the greatest thing that ever happened to the Libertarian Party.
Oh yeah, and the fact that there are so many libertarian party affiliates who don't have crypto donations, and I am calling out the Arizona LP right here, right now, because I sat in that meeting with you.
Lauren, pay attention.
Lauren has no control over whether or not we take crypto donations. And I know who does, and I know their opinion on it. There are so many LP affiliates who do not take crypto donations, and
which is insane.
The thing is we need to be doing this. It's so libertarian.
Yeah, it's
and I made
what is
made
wrong
that
with
argument.
you that you wouldn't take that? That is insane to me. First of all,
taxes.
For the sheer reason
it's all about taxes.
I know what it's about, but I'm saying, first of all, you could just leave that money in that account if you didn't need to use it. You can leave that crypto in there. It's gonna get more valuable. It's I don't. Libertarians that don't like crypto baffle me
By the
it's
way,
weird in my head. I don't understand.
I take crypto donations on float.
Hey, there you go. Like, got to get that grift, girl. Always, no matter what. A true libertarian is always grifting, for sure.
I always start my show. I'm like, follow my Patreon and follow my float because I take crypto donations on float.
Yeah, you didn't send me your float.
It should be on my link tree. I need to update my link tree.
It is on your.
That in like
right.
6 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I ran your link tree. But all right, this has been great. I hope everyone that watches this enjoyed it. Leilani is amazing, and she's fun to look at. So enjoy, and y'all have a great one. I appreciate it, everybody.